Chào mừng các bạn. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ cùng
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to carefully review the latest updates on the Nancy Guthrie case. 4 months have passed since Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of television journalist Savannah Guthrie, vanished from her own home in Tucson.
Trong ngôi nhà của mình tại Tucson, chúng ta có nghi phạm.
Right now, we have a fake ransom suspect heading to trial in just a few days. Newly revealed ransom notes mentioning Sonora, Mexico. Expert theories about a possible local handyman and an organization behind the crime. Serious questions about how the crime scene was handled, and important real-world safety lessons for all of us. We will walk through each part with respect, relying only on confirmed information from trusted sources like Fox News, News Nation, and the National Institute of Justice. Stay with me as we sort through what we truly know so far.
Imagine a peaceful home tucked away in the Catalina foothills of Tucson, Arizona. It is the kind of neighborhood where folks still wave to each other from their driveways, and life feels steady and safe. Then, in late January of 2026, that sense of safety was shattered. Nancy Guthrie, a warm 84-year-old woman and the beloved mother of television journalist Savannah Guthrie, simply vanished from inside her own home. 4 months have now passed, and we still do not have a body. We still do not have a primary suspect in custody, and the questions just keep growing as new details continue to surface. Good evening, friends. Welcome back to Notebook Vi. I am so glad you are here with me. We have built this space together as a place where we can look at difficult true crime stories with care, with respect, and always grounded in the facts that responsible news outlets have actually reported. Tonight, we are going to walk through the latest developments in Nancy's case. We will talk about everything from people trying to profit off a family's pain to thoughtful theories from seasoned investigators and some real-world lessons that might help protect our own families. Before we go any further, if these updates matter to you, and you appreciate hearing analysis that sticks close to verified information, would you please tap that like button for me right now? It really helps. And if you have not already, I would love it if you subscribed and turned on the notification bell so we can stay connected as this story unfolds. Your support means more than you know. Let us begin by gently reminding ourselves where things stand. Nancy was last seen on January 31st of this year. The doorbell camera captured someone at her door, but there were no clear signs that anyone had broken in. Her family reported her missing right away, and both the Pima County Sheriff's Office and the FBI have been working the case. One of the important legal ideas that keeps coming up is something called corpus delicti, the body of the crime. Criminal defense attorney Michael T. Vanderveen spoke about this in Newsweek, and KOLD News 13 covered it as well. He explained how challenging it is, under American law, to prove a homicide when there are no physical remains. This is not about guessing. It is simply how our justice system is designed, to make sure evidence is solid before anyone is convicted. We have to be patient with this process. Law enforcement has received many tips, including several from Mexico, and they are carefully checking each one for credibility and how well it fits with what they already know. Jumping ahead without official word does not help Nancy or her loved ones. One of the more recent court matters involves a man named Derek Calella. On February 5th, 2026, this 42-year-old from Hawthorne, California, was arrested. Prosecutors say he sent text messages to Nancy's daughter Annie and her husband Tommaso, demanding 12 Bitcoin. The messages reportedly said something like, "Have you received the 12 Bitcoin yet? We are waiting on our end to complete the transaction." According to court records and reporting from Reality T and the International Business Times, Calella told investigators he had been following the story on television and picked up family details from some website online. Thankfully, detectives were able to trace his phone number to an email address and then to his home. This is what experts often call an opportunistic crime. Someone sees a family suffering in the national spotlight and tries to twist that pain for their own gain. The Department of Justice has been clear. They will stand up for victims and hold people accountable when they prey on grief like this. Kalela's trial is set for June 23rd, just a few days from now. It is reassuring to see the system move quickly when digital evidence is there to follow. At the same time, it leaves us with that heavy feeling that the person truly responsible for Nancy's disappearance may still be out there. That contrast is hard to sit with, but it is part of the reality we are facing. One of the details that has stayed with me came in April of 2026, when TMZ received some ransom notes. Harvey Levin shared on air that the first email asked for half a Bitcoin in return for information about where Nancy was and who might have taken her. Then, very soon after, another note arrived saying the writer had seen her still alive with someone in Sonora, Mexico. What makes this stand out is that Nogales, where search groups later received a tip about a possible gravesite, sits right there in Sonora. Outlets like Vocal Media have confirmed the timeline, 2 full months before that June tip surfaced. We need to hold these kinds of tips gently. The geographic connection feels meaningful. Yet many ransom notes in high-profile cases turn out to be cruel hoaxes meant to stir emotion or squeeze out money. The FBI and local authorities are trained to test every tip for consistency with the facts they have. There has not been official confirmation tying these notes directly to the person who took Nancy. But the overlap in time and place is certainly something worth watching as the investigation moves forward. Some of the most thoughtful ideas I have heard lately come from experienced professionals. In a special segment on News Nation, Brian Enton and his team of profilers talked about the possibility that the individual seen on the doorbell camera was not the main person behind this, but perhaps a lower-level helper. They even raised the idea that this person might no longer be alive, which could explain why, after reviewing thousands of hours of footage, authorities still have not identified him. It fits with what some investigators describe as a wrench ring, where certain people are used for the visible parts of a crime, while the one really in charge stays in the shadows. Then there is the perspective shared by Barbara Butcher, a longtime death investigator during CrimeCon in Las Vegas. In conversations with Fox News and CBS, she suggested the suspect could be someone from the local area, maybe a handyman or a service worker who knew the neighborhood well. Someone who might have learned that Nancy was Savannah Guthrie's mother and assumed the family had money. Experts often point out that crimes against older adults tend to involve people who already know the routines, the easy ways in and out of a house, and when someone might be home alone. The National Institute of Justice has published studies showing exactly these patterns in elder victimization cases. On top of that, DNA taken from gloves found roughly 2 miles from Nancy's home has not matched anyone in the National CODIS database. That points toward either a first-time offender or someone very careful who had never been caught before. These ideas are not wild guesses. They come from years of studying real cases, from behavioral patterns, and from forensic realities. They help make sense of how someone might have approached the house without obvious forced entry. Even so, they are still expert opinions, not proven facts, and we must let the actual evidence lead the way. There are also some practical lessons here that feel especially close to home for many of us. Reports from the sheriff and from the National Institute of Justice talk about something called wrench attacks, where criminals target vulnerable family members to pressure others. When we share too many personal details online, our home layouts, our travel plans, or our family celebrations, we sometimes create openings we never meant to create. For those of us in our 50s, 60s, and beyond, it is worth taking a quiet moment to check our privacy settings, to think about what we post, and to make sure our home cameras and locks are working the way they should. These are small habits that can bring a little more peace of mind in a world that sometimes feels uncertain. During CrimeCon, several voices, including Donna Rotuno and Paul Morrow from Fox Nation, spoke about concerns with how the crime scene was handled in those first critical hours. Journalist Michael Ruiz shared that a deputy actually let him walk right up to the front door of Nancy's home while the investigation was still active. A hair that could have been important evidence was sent to a laboratory in Florida instead of the FBI's main facility in Quantico. Details like these, reported by established outlets such as Fox News, remind us that early decisions can affect what happens later in a case. When we step back and look at all of this together, the picture is still complicated. We have someone like Kalela moving through the court system for trying to profit from the family's pain. We have these intriguing tips from April that seem to point towards Sonora. We have experienced investigators offering ideas about possible hierarchies and local connections. The unmatched DNA and the questions about scene management add even more layers. Everything we have discussed tonight comes from careful reporting by Fox News, News Nation, KOL Newsweek, the National Institute of Justice, and other trusted sources. I have not added anything that was not already out there. After following cases like this for a long time, I personally feel the handyman and wrench attack ideas deserve real consideration because they match what we see again and again in studies about crimes against older adults. At the same time, I believe we must stay measured. Tips from Mexico still need full verification, and the lack of remains continues to make things legally difficult. The investigation is moving, even if it feels slow, and that is the reality we are living with right now. For so many of us watching, especially women who have spent years caring for families and creating safe homes, this story touches something deep. It reminds us how precious our daily routines are. The morning coffee on the porch, the quiet evenings, the comfort of knowing our loved ones are close. It encourages us to look after one another a little more closely, to strengthen the small protections around our lives, and to hold our families tight. If this video helped you feel a bit more informed or gave you something meaningful to think about, I would be so grateful if you shared it with a friend or family member who might also care about these topics. Please subscribe to Notebook V and turn on the bell so you will know the moment we have new information from Pima County or the FBI. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with me. Thank you for being part of this community that values thoughtful conversation and responsible reporting. Your presence here truly matters. Stay safe, stay connected to the people you love, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next video. Take good care, everyone.